All right, let's get into one of the biggest, most fascinating paradoxes in the world today, Russia's massive gamble on the climate. You see, the Kremlin looks at the melting Arctic and sees a golden ticket, a chance for incredible wealth and power. But here's the catch. The very same climate change that's opening up this frontier could also be the thing that brings the whole plan crashing down. It's a strategy that's literally fighting against itself, and we're going to break down exactly how.
And look, this is not some theoretical problem for the distant future. Back in 2021, Vladimir Putin himself had to get on camera and admit how bad things were. His words for the wildfires ripping through Siberia? Absolutely unprecedented. That's not just a fire, you know? That's a huge signal that the effects of a warming planet are already hitting Russia hard.
And this image, wow, it really captures the whole problem, doesn't it? Industry and smoke rising over this vast frozen landscape. So, is this the engine of Russia's future? Or is it the very thing that could cause its own collapse? Let's dig into both sides of this incredible gamble. Okay, so first, let's look at the opportunity side of things. From Moscow's point of view, a warming Arctic isn't a crisis at all. It's a strategic gift. Seriously. It's unlocking brand new shipping lanes, it's giving them access to unbelievable amounts of energy, and it's their ticket to cementing Russia's power in a totally new part of the world. And we're not talking about vague ideas here. No, these plans are incredibly specific. Russia is actively trying to make the Northern Sea Route a direct competitor to the Suez Canal. They're going all in on exploiting huge reserves of oil and gas. I mean, they have a plan to boost gas production by a whopping 50% by 2035. This is the official centerpiece of Russia's entire economic future. All right, but here's where the whole thing starts to look, well, really, really risky. The very foundation for all these grand projects, the frozen earth of the Arctic itself, is literally melting away right from under their feet. Just let that number sink in for a second. 60%. More than half of all of Russia is built on permafrost. That's ground that's supposed to be frozen solid, year-round, and now it's thawing. This isn't just some local problem. We're talking about a vulnerability on a continental scale. And what's so wild about this map is how it layers two key pieces of data. You can see Russia's most important, most valuable energy projects, like Yamal LNG and Bovinenkovo, and then you see the permafrost hotspots, the places that are thawing the fastest. And guess what? They're in the exact same spots. They are building their crown jewels on the most unstable ground imaginable. And believe me, this isn't some far-off possibility. Just look at these photos from the industrial city of Norilsk. On the left, a building is literally being ripped apart by the shifting ground. And on the right, that building is being torn down after just 21 years because its foundation gave way. The ground is collapsing, and it's taking whole cities down with it. And the price tag for all of this? It's just staggering. Researchers are estimating that the damage to infrastructure from this thaw is going to hit $105 billion by 2050. That is a colossal bill that completely eats away at the potential profits of this whole Arctic adventure. But you know, as if your buildings and pipelines buckling weren't bad enough, there's something else happening under the surface. Something way more sudden and a lot more dangerous. This image says it all. That is not a meteor strike. It's a massive crater that was formed when a huge bubble of methane gas just exploded out of the thawing permafrost. And these things are starting to pop up terrifyingly close to Russia's most important energy projects, like the Bovinenkovo gas fields. Can you imagine one of these blowing up next to a pipeline? It's a totally unpredictable, catastrophic risk. So you've got the ground literally collapsing. But on top of that, Russia is making an economic bet that is flying directly into the face of major global trends. Let's take a look. And this slide really lays out the core problem, right? On the one hand, Russia is doubling down on selling fossil fuels from the Arctic. But on the other hand, its biggest customer for decades, the European Union, is moving as fast as it can away from them. If the EU actually hits its climate targets, that could wipe out an estimated $100 billion from Russian exports. Russia is basically betting its entire future on a product that its best customers are trying to quit.
So, you have this huge physical risk, this big economic bet. And what does Russia do? Well, that leads us right to the military response, which, you guessed it, creates a whole new paradox of its own. So, to protect all this stuff, Russia has gone on an absolute military building spree. It's beefing up its powerful northern fleet, it's reopening old Soviet bases, and it's sticking advanced new weapons all over the place. Basically, it is turning the Arctic into a fortress.
But here's the crazy part.
This creates this bizarre feedback loop, what experts call a security paradox. See, these giant Arctic projects need foreign money and technology to work, but the more Russia builds up its military to protect them, the more it scares off the exact investors it needs. And the final irony? The military bases themselves are built on the very same melting permafrost as everything else.
And we're not talking about a minor risk here. This chart shows that at least 18 Russian military installations are threatened by thawing permafrost, and 5 of them are sitting right in those high-risk hotspots we saw on the map earlier. Russia's big, tough Arctic fortress is literally being built on thin ice.
Okay, so when you step back and look at the whole picture, you've got the physical collapse, the economic miscalculation, and this security paradox. What you end up with is a strategy that is actively working against itself.
Let's just walk through this vicious cycle step by step. 1. Russia needs foreign money. 2. It turns the Arctic into a military zone to protect its stuff. 3. That military buildup spooks the investors. 4. It keeps building on unstable melting ground anyway. And 5. The whole project just digs them deeper into depending on fossil fuels right when the rest of the world is trying to quit. Every single step just makes the next one even riskier.
Which brings us to the final burning question. Russia's entire plan for the Arctic is to profit from climate change. But at the same time, climate change is actively destroying its infrastructure, its economy, and its security. So really, when you're betting against the planet and you're betting against yourself, how can you possibly win?